Nintendo did a huge direct about the Switch 2 and everything coming with the Switch 2 on April 2nd. So the Switch 2, for those of you who have been living under a rock and have not seen the announcement, will be releasing on Thursday, June 5th, which is really quick, 2 months from now, which was kind of the same way they did the Switch 1. And they announced and opened the direct with the new Mario Kart World. So this is going to be the first Mario Kart on the Switch, and this is a launch day game. So this is going to be coming out on the same day that the Switch 2 comes out, which is June 5th. This is going to have so many new features. It's going to have new maps, new types of vehicles, including jet skis, planes, boats, cars, bikes. You're able to drive on ropes and walls. There's new items, new costumes, various regions expanding a globe, and the map will change depending on the time of day and the weather. There will be an ability to drive off track, and there are various different modes, including the classic Grand Prix mode, the knockout mode, and the free roam mode. There's a specific Mario Kart Direct that will be on April 17th at 6 a.m. to go over more features coming with the new Mario Kart Deluxe. But just based on the trailer and all that we saw in the beginning, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks like it's going to be so much fun. The ability to have 24 drivers in each race. I don't know how many per console if you're playing locally or online, but this is very interesting. I was very excited to see this. We haven't had a new Mario Kart in forever. The last one was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which came out on the Switch back in 2017. So this is the first new Mario Kart in almost a decade. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to offer. Also, there are other first-party games that are coming with the Switch 2. That are going to be Switch 2 exclusives, but they are not coming out on launch day. So the next Switch 2 exclusive is a Switch 2 version of the Super Mario Party Jamboree. Now, Super Mario Party Jamboree did come out on the Switch 1 back in 2024, and it was pretty good. I feel like it was one of the better Mario Party games that we've had over the years. We had a couple flop games, but Jamboree had a great multiplayer system online and a local gameplay with a lot of modes. There is going to be a Switch 2 edition that's coming out on July 24th of 2025, which is going to use the new mouse feature from the Joy-Con for the Switch 2 and the new Nintendo camera feature if you decide to buy one of those. It is upgradable, so if you already own Super Mario Party Jamboree on the Switch 1, there's an upgrade pass, which they did not discuss how much the price of that is, to get the Switch 2 edition of Super Mario Party Jamboree. Hopefully it's no more than $20 or so, not 100% sure. And of course, when you're using any online features, you do need to have the Nintendo Switch online subscription in order to play with other people. Also in that same line of Switch 2 exclusive games that are buildable or upgradable, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is getting a Switch 2 edition. Again, you have to buy an upgrade pass if you already own Breath of the Wild on the Switch 1. It is going to include some new features like Zelda Notes, which will be added to the Nintendo Switch app, and then some other options. I'm not super into Legend of Zelda, so I'm not familiar with how this is going to change the gameplay, but again, one of those really cool features if you love Legend of Zelda, wanted to play more. I will note that for those of you who have the Nintendo Switch Online subscription with the expansion pack, which is a little bit more pricey, I think, than the regular online subscription, the Switch 2 edition of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom will be free. So you won't have to pay for these expansion passes if you already subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online with the expansion pass. So that's a perk for those of you who subscribe. If not, you probably have a separate DLC you can buy. Again, the pricing has not been determined yet, but I'm hoping it's no more than $20. There's also going to be a Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition and a Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Switch 2 edition. So for me, as someone who has not yet purchased Metroid Prime 4, if you think you're getting a Switch 2, I would just wait and get the Switch 2 edition when it comes. I wouldn't buy it on Switch 1 and then get the upgrade pass because it's basically like paying more for it. And there's also going to be a Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Legends ZA, which we don't have a release date yet, but it is coming out at some point in 2025. So I thought that was super interesting to have Switch 2 editions. I know a lot of people online were upset that some games aren't free upgrades for the Switch 2 edition, that you're paying for these games to have Switch 2 editions, like the 2 Legend of Zelda games, Super Mario Party, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, things like that. It's not unheard of. We have had some precedent in both Sony and Xbox when they've switched to their consoles. Like for example, PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. Some of those games you had to pay for the upgraded version on the new console. Some people feel like Nintendo's being greedy for that. You can let me know in the comments below what you think. I think it's just industry standard at this point that if you're getting an upgraded version, especially if they're adding new features and upgrading graphics, that you are going to pay a little bit more for that. Now, specifically for games that are Switch 2 exclusive that are not upgradable, they had a new game called Drag and Drive, which is using the mouse features that are coming with the new Joy-Con 2, coming with the Switch 2, where you can play 3-on-3 basketball using the Joy-Cons. It looked interesting. It kind of reminded me of Rocket League with the graphics and kind of like the gameplay style. I'm not sure if it's something I personally would buy. I just have to see a little bit more information about that. They haven't really convinced me with the 30 seconds that they showed us. There's also going to be a new Hyrule Warriors Age of Destruction that's going to act like a prequel for Tears of the Kingdom. I was actually fairly surprised by that. We haven't gotten a new Hyrule Warriors game in a while. It looks pretty good, actually. And this is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive sometime in 2025. They did not give us a date yet, which I was surprised because we're already, 3-4 months into the year. I'm assuming it's going to be like a holiday game, but they can't all be holiday games, right? We can't have the Pokemon ZA and Metroid Prime 4 and Hyrule. They can't all be holiday games. So something has to be coming out maybe in the summer. And then we had 2 surprise games that nobody expected. So Kirby Air Riders, which we're not 100% sure what that is, but the director directing Kirby Air Riders is the same director that did Super Mario Brothers Ultimate on the Switch 1. This is his latest project, so I know it's going to be good because Super Mario Brothers Ultimate was one of the better Super Mario games, like Bros Brawl games. It's supposed to come out sometime this year. Again, no date for Kirby Air Riders. And by the trailer, I can't tell if it's like a racing game or is it like an RPG. Not really sure. And then the last game that they announced, which was really unexpected, was Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, we haven't gotten a new Donkey Kong game in literally forever. I think we got one Donkey Kong game on the Switch 1. This one's coming out in July, so we don't have to wait too long after the launch of Switch 2 to get this new Donkey Kong game. And this Donkey Kong looks like the Donkey Kong from the Super Mario Brothers movie. So it looks like they've redone Donkey Kong's character outlines with that sunken eye look. Not sure how I feel about it, but it is interesting to see that they're getting a lot more of their first party games out earlier. And when the Switch 1 launched, I don't think we had as much success. They didn't have as many first party games and third party games as the Switch 2 seems to be having upon launch. All these games, like I said, these first party games are going to be out in 2025. So we're looking at the next 8-9 months worth of games. Seems like we're pretty stacked. They also had an entire list of third-party games, including Elden Ring, Yakuza, some games from Square Enix, Borderlands 4 is coming, Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, there's a ton of games that are already out or coming out shortly that will also be coming out on the Switch 2, which gives me hope that the Switch 2 can keep up with it graphically and it won't have too much lag necessarily. We have to still see that. But I'm super excited. I think that for me, the Switch 2 is worth upgrading as a day one upgrade. I had the original Switch, and I'll be honest, I did not buy the original Switch when it came out in 2017. I waited until 2019 to buy the Switch because there was nothing worth playing when the Switch 1 first came out. For those of you who remember the Switch 1 days, their only games was like Super Mario Odyssey and like 1-2 Arms. It was nothing worth buying. I wasn't super interested in a Super Mario Odyssey game. So to see now that they're really being thoughtful about having both third-party and first-party games in the first 9 months of the game coming out gives me hope that they actually learned from their lesson from Switch 1 and that they're going to try to do something different this time around. Fingers crossed that we have a smooth launch, the scalpers don't completely ruin everything for us, and that some people are actually able to get the game at the MSRP price. Now, I'm in the United States, so for the Switch 1, when it first came out, I want to say it was $299 or $300. Switch 2 is coming out for just the console at $449. And then if you want to have the Switch 2 bundled with Mario Kart World, it's $499. Pre-orders are supposed to go live on April 9th for most retailers, big retailers like Amazon, Best Buy, Target. I don't know what smaller retailers are doing. Some people have had success online, especially in the UK. So Amazon UK is selling the game now. So depending on your region, you may have people already doing pre-orders. For the US, I have not seen any pre-orders yet. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all the first-party games coming to Nintendo Switch?